Welcome in, everybody, to the Footballguys Bowl draft. It is finally here. We are drafting with a bunch of staffers here from Footballguys. Of course, if you are a frequent subscriber to this channel and viewer of this channel, it's no surprise Dave Kluge is late. He's probably pounding a plate of eggs and finishing a workout or something. That's why he's 10 minutes late for our draft. But instead, we have replaced him. We've got some really strong Footballguys staffers here today. We've got, in order, Jagger May, Joey Wright, Bob Harris, Jeff Hasley, everybody. Thank you guys for jumping on today. We are about to kick off the Footballguys live draft here for Footballguys Bowl. Now, I want to go over this. Before we actually start it, I kind of want to go over really quickly the rules for this league and what the parameters are before we jump in. It's pretty much your basic fantasy football draft, guys. Only difference here, instead of 4-point per passing touchdown, it's going to be 6-point per passing touchdown. And then there's a few little changes here on defense. But other than that, we've got a pretty standardized fantasy football league. We're going with 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex. Also, I can't believe we're doing this in the year of our Lord, 2024. We're drafting defenses. That's gross. I'm not excited about that. All right, we are going to kick this off. Joey, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. I feel like you were pausing for funny banter, and
and literally no one said a single word.
I was carefully considering my funny banter because I was going to ask Jagger to give us his take on this entire draft.
Yeah. I was pausing for laughs, and I was like, surely someone else would think Alfredo's funny.
I was we don't do that here. I was just letting everyone else jump in here a little bit. I guess that's not happening.
But you're right about
was here to bring the humor. If Jeff Bell was here to bring the humor, the show would be so much better. But
let it go, Joey.
Funny, so I'm not
let it go. I will say though, you're right about defenses. I would rather have question for the chat. Would you rather have kickers or would you rather have defenses? And I think I would rather have a kicker every time.
That's a good one. Chat, let us know. Kickers, defense?
No, that was a question. That was a direct
we don't
question.
Have to wait for laughs every single time. We'll just wait for we'll wait for Dave's team to auto draft a running back and then wait for laughs. All right. So why don't we do this? Joey, you are co-commissioner. You're in command here. You could start the draft. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into it. Jeff Bell's going to be on the clock with the 101. Here we go.
Oh, who let that happen?
No, I was about to say, I don't think there's any debate here. It's probably going to be Christian McCaffrey. Now, Bob, you go Tyreek Hill.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Bob. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. It was either Lamb or Hill for me, so I'll take the opposite.
Dave's in the draft, but he's not on the stream. What is going on?
I'm sure he got the notification. He ignored all of my texts, but he gets the notification from Sleeper that he needs to jump onto the draft, and boom, he's in.
This is a great way for Alfredo to find out that Dave muted him. This is really fun.
Oh, yeah.
All of us here.
Oh, yeah. Unfollowed, blocked, everything.
I'm up.
Yeah, Joey, where are you going here? Pick number 7.
I'm going to go Breece Hall. I was in a draft this weekend with a good friend of mine named Joe, and he wanted to take Breece Hall 2nd overall because he didn't think CMC was going to make it to us. But somebody took CeeDee Lamb number 1 overall, so we ended up taking CMC. But I'm excited to get a little Breece Hall on my team here. Started off. I'm really confident with a lot of wide receivers this season, and I've been finding myself going more running back in the first round if I can get a Breece Hall, a Bijan Robinson, or if I have the 1-on-1 CMC.
So after we see those wide receivers come off the board, Joey, you go with the 2nd running back, Breece Hall. And right now I'm considering whether I need to go with the top running back on the board, Bijan Robinson or AJ Brown. Normally, I think I'd go Bijan Robinson here, but because of the format, because of the 3 wide receivers, because of the 2 flexes, I'm going to go AJ Brown here and actually go wide receiver over running back and shock the world, or at least shock Dave Kluge because he was expecting running back there. And I think I might have upset Jagger here at the 9th pick.
Yeah, dude, a little bit because now I'm forced to consider Bijan Robinson. You know, you're literally nailing me to the cross because like they're gonna be like the football guy staffers let Bijan fall to the 12. You know, like I can't do that. You know, so I'm gonna do the opposite of what I tell everyone on the Dynasty Show ever, and I'm gonna take a running back in the first round. Oh,
yeah,
it hurts.
Yeah. I mean, Bijan Robinson, not a bad player. The format here, though, it causes you to change your draft strategy just a little bit. Where 3 wide receivers and 2 flex, you might be leaning a bit more towards wide receiver. After that, Clayton Gray takes Garrett Wilson at the 110. Guys, and I'll pose this question to Bob Harris since you have the longest before your pick comes up. Garrett Wilson, should he be a first rounder regardless of format, or is he more likely to go in the first round here in a 3 wide receiver league?
I think he's more likely to go here. I mean, it's going to be close either way. And like I've kind of come to grips with, I think there was a period where Puka Nacua was going like slightly ahead of him. I think we're all kind of like the knee injury he had isn't the reason, but I think it brought up a point that maybe, you know, we're drafting an historic season and maybe we shouldn't be. Maybe the price wasn't quite right. And so when Puka's price, with his price dropping a little bit, I think Wilson's just moved. And here you see Sigmund take Puka. And I think that's kind of how I've been seeing it more. I think that's a reasonable approach. We're all banking on Aaron Rodgers to carry this. And if so, I mean, Garrett Wilson, he could move up into that top 5 easy.
Yeah, that Jets offense has a lot riding on the Achilles of old man Rodgers. But there's also another offense that has a very similar situation. The Falcons and Jets almost seem to be mirror images of themselves. When I look at Kyle Pitts, I think Tyler Conklin, they're the exact same. But there's a bunch of other very similar weapons on that team. And so Garrett Wilson is a guy who's going a bit earlier. Someone who might come off the board soon, or just went off the board here at the 201, Drake London. What's the big difference here? Jeff, I'll ask you, what's the big difference here between Drake London and Garrett Wilson? Because their situations seem so similar. These are guys with high draft pedigree, tons of target volume, quarterbacks and an offense that should be better. What's your preference here, and what are the big differences between them?
Well, I like Garrett Wilson over London. One, we've seen what Wilson can do with subpar quarterback play. London hasn't quite done that for me, and I also think that there's going to be just a higher target volume for Wilson over London. So I would go with Wilson over London. I probably would go with London over Puka, though. That's an interesting take.
Okay. Well, speak on that a little bit. You can't just drop the bomb. I'd go London over Puka and then just not follow that up with anything. So why?
I mean, the knee injury is a little bit of a concern, a little bit, right? I mean, that's obviously what's the big story right now. But I also think that Cooper Kupp is going to come back and be a big part of that Rams offense. So I don't know. London can be that go-to guy for Kirk Cousins, and we know that he's gravitated towards that. I can see him being more of a consistent weekly threat than Puka, because we could see Puka with 6 catches for 56 yards one week, and then maybe 3 for 42 and a touchdown another. And I just think London's going to be a little bit more consistent.
Jagger, you went Nico Collins here at the 204. I wouldn't say that's a bit early, but this is Nico Collins. Can he improve on last year's season, especially now with the crowded room in Houston? What kind of jump are you expecting from CJ Stroud and that Texans offense?
I'm going to be honest. I think that it's safety and ceiling. I think he's the guy. He's the number 1 wide receiver. But when I'm looking at the rest of the board, when you got Kyron Williams, who I'm a known Kyron hater, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, I've already got Bijan Robinson. And you made the excellent point that there's 3 wide receivers, slots and 2 flexes. I just want a stud that is attached to another stud at that point. So I want that early, and I don't want to be scrambling for wide receivers when I know that there's a lot of running back value later. And then again, you just picked Chris Olave. I was really debating between the two. I think in a vacuum, the talent of both of them are the same, if not Chris Olave being a little bit better. But Derek Carr, I can't.
Yeah, you mentioned debating between Nico Collins and Chris Olave. I was sitting here debating between Chris Olave and another player, and I had to go and check my rankings on footballguys.com because, you start to forget. And so being able to go back onto the website, use the draft mode that we have there. We do have a bunch of great tools, and now we actually have Draft Sync for the Sleeper app, which we're using right now. That way you are able to have your drafts automatically sync with the Football Guys Draft Dominator, have your rosters upload, have the scoring settings upload. It is really, really useful. And oh my gosh, everybody, Dave Kluge's joined us. Let's get a big round of applause for Dave Kluge. How you doing, superstar?
Hey, thanks. Lost track of time. I was on a run and remembered that we had this live stream. So better late than never, right?
Oh my God, guys,
I think
we're
that was
so
Joey
right.
who got that, right? Joey, didn't you call that?
Yeah.
For double of my money, Dave, was there a rattlesnake on your run?
No, I was out of the mountains today. This is just a run around the neighborhood. But yeah, you get a 10 minutes.
I was
west,
concerned
rattlesnakes galore.
We were debating.
You got
We were
bit by a rattlesnake.
Okay, let's.
So we were debating. Joey thought maybe rattlesnake while you were on your run. Jagger believed you may have been on the toilet after a plate of eggs. And then there was also the belief you've been crushed by a set of dumbbells after a workout. So yeah,
on the toilet, those odds would have been about minus 600.
Just put the weights in the bathroom, save time. Way more efficient.
What a testament to Sleeper. I could be outside in a 90-degree day, dripping in sweat, not even remember I have a draft, and still able to make my picks. What a great app we got here.
Yeah, what was actually very frustrating was that I was texting you and you did not respond to my text, but you absolutely get the Sleeper notification. You're like, oh, I got a draft. Let me jump in. Oh, Jamar Chase. All right, cool. Now let me get back
This is
home.
how Alfredo finds out that I have him muted, unfortunately.
That's what I said.
That's exactly what we said. Yeah.
That's what we said. Oh, good times. All right, let's catch everybody
man.
up on the draft
All
here.
right.
Joey, at the 206, you went Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
At 207, we see Devon Achane. Dave, 208, Jalen Waddle. At the 209, Jason Wood goes Derrick Henry. At the 210, Jeff Hasley. You took Travis Etienne. At the 211, Bob Harris. You go Mike Evans. And then Jeff Bell here on the turn. It feels like he always ends up getting Cooper Kupp at that spot. Let's start here, Joey. You went Saquon Barkley. I was considering him, but man, the format just really makes me steer away from these running backs. You have started with the double running back start here. Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley. What's going into that thought process?
Highly unusual for me. I am usually like a running back and a wide receiver guy. And I'll tell you what, I saw Barkley fall to the middle of the second round and I could not pass on the value. I said before I took Breece Hall, I love a lot of wide receivers this year. I'm really happy with the amount of wide receivers there are. And I understand I'm going to be starting 3. I don't think I'm going to tap running back again for quite some time, but I feel super happy with my running back room right now. I feel like there's a few guys down the board a little bit at wide receiver that could move up to wide receiver 2 status. So I think I'm going to get a couple of those guys, and I'm going to love my team by the end.
Dave, you were the next pick from who's here on the live stream at the 208. You went Jalen Waddle. You and I have already talked about Jalen Waddle a million times here, but talk a little bit more about, well, actually, I'll wait because you have a pick coming up here. So why don't I jump over to Jeff Hasley, who went after. Jeff, you followed up your CeeDee Lamb pick with 2 running backs. Now, this is another,
Sir.
you kind of almost went hero wide receiver here, which is a different build for the style of draft we're doing here. Talk a little bit about your 2 running backs and the thought process that went into that instead of just continuing to load up on wide receiver in this format.
Well, it looks like everybody else kind of has started that philosophy of going with a heavy wide receiver. So I didn't really see one that I possibly was looking at DJ Moore there, but I wanted someone with a little bit more production, I guess, if you will. And the fact that I know I wanted to go with ETN. I like ETN this year. I think he's going to get a lot of high volume carry share with the team. So I liked ETN. I came back with Kyron thinking, well, if I'm not going to go receiver, I'm definitely going to go running back. And it was either him or Pacheco who just went. I've taken either one, but I leaned on Kyron Williams. So we'll see how that goes. There are some receivers that I like a little bit later on in like rounds 4, 5, and 6. And I know that I'll have to get at least 3. So you can bet that I'll be targeting that as we come around.
After Jeff went on, Bob, you went back-to-back, well, let's politely say seasoned wide receivers that I think some of the fantasy community might be writing off maybe not Mike Evans, but Devontae Adams. So you start here with the 3 wide receiver build. How confident are you in these guys? They could still potentially be top 12 wide receivers in fantasy.
I have all of them ranked inside my top 12. I'm that confident. And like, I get it with Adams. There is concern. I think the targets will come. We saw Gardner Minshew feed Michael Pittman Jr. last year. We also saw Aiden O'Connell feed him. It was certainly against Indianapolis. He had 13 catches. So like, I get it. People are a little down on him. It's the 3rd round. I think that's a little down, and I'm not as down. And I think in Mike Evans' case, he's pushing for a career season, talking to people who cover that team on a daily basis. They see 0 signs of him slowing down. 0. And I mean, like, you don't believe everything the beat writers tell you, but when you have 4 different ones tell you the same thing, they're at least seeing that. And so I'm willing to take a chance on that in the 2nd round, especially after Derrick Henry was gone. I blame Jason Wood for ruining my draft because I want to have Derrick Henry in every draft. And also, I've already screwed up by veering off Kluge's big tweet, which I thought was amazing. Well done. Go check it out. The entire draft day manifesto is fantastic.
Thank you. Jagger, I want to hear your take on Bob's team because I know you get scared off by wide receivers above the age of 27. How do you feel starting with
kids?
3 straight 30-plus wide receivers?
You kids.
I think Bob and I are going to have the opposite of a team. I took Roma Dunze at the 4-4, and then Bob is drafting Devontae Adams. You could tell who is a dynasty guy, and you can tell who is Bob. So I don't know.
There are other differences.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I get worried on it. Devontae I like, and Mike Evans. So like, I will say the people that Bob drafted, they are the players that I consider the Derrick Henrys of wide receivers, where like, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be these guys. So like, I don't like, to be honest, I would have drafted Devontae over Odunze as my wide receiver 3 at this point. I just didn't, have that option.
I'll just say I would love to have got Neighbors. It's just, the way this draft is laid out, where I'm picking, wasn't going to be conducive to that. I love Neighbors this year, and I mean, like, I kind of joke about it, but the age difference, like, I am a little more willing to go with the older players, and I don't know that it's because I'm old, but maybe, and it's because I'm chasing volume or more certain volume, especially early in the season. Things are so volatile. I like to have guys that I know are going to be the primary assets on their team, especially in these early rounds.
Dave, after your Waddle pick in the 2nd, you followed that up with Brandon Ayuk and Rashee Rice, 2 guys with a bit of uncertainty around them. Particularly, let's talk about Ayuk, because I think the Rice thing, we just kind of have to wait and see like what happens. Does he get suspended? Well, most likely
I will defer to Drew Davenport, who says
right. It seems
no
like
chance he gets suspended. And the reason I went with Rice there is because I knew that Rice wasn't making it past Jeff Bell. So if Jeff Bell wasn't picking at the turn there, I probably would have kicked Rice into round 5, but I knew that wasn't happening with Jeff in this room.
That's why I didn't take a Dunze. I knew someone was going to get on the way back, and I've looked at the rest of the wide receivers, and as Alfredo pointed out, I'm like, old. Nope. Let me just go ahead and get a Dunze now. And it's interesting how we are definitely prioritizing our pass catchers over even like tight ends, really kind of falling in comparison to a lot of drafts now.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask here.
You okay with that, Jeff?
Somehow
let's see, Joey, are you able to do that?
Yeah, I can back it out.
Since you're let's back that up. And while you're doing that, Dave, we kind of got off track there, but I wanted to ask you about Brandon Ayuk. He's going here in the 3rd round. With all the uncertainty there, if he gets traded to the Steelers, does that drop for you quite a bit? It seems like less likely it's going to happen, but him staying on the Niners seems like it's 3rd round.
Yeah, and even if he did, I mean, if he's in with the Niners, we're probably looking at him as an early 2nd round pick. If he gets traded to the Steelers, then he's fallen into the middle of the 3rd round. So I feel like I'm buying him as floor here. Early in the offseason, when ADP first kind of came out after the NFL draft, Brandon Ayuk was going at the top of round 2. So I have just been buying the dip on Ayuk, a player who I think is really talented. Drafting him as a wide receiver 3 feels pretty easy.
Holy smokes! And we just had a tight end run, boys and girls. Let's catch up here.
That emptied out my queue.
So after Brandon Ayuk goes, we see Malik Neighbors, Stephon Diggs. I went with DK Metcalf. Jagger, you went with Michael Pittman. We see Isaiah Pacheco, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith. And we come back on the 4th round with Travis Kelce, the first tight end off the board, Tank Dell, James Cook. Jagger, you went Roma Dunze. I took Alvin Kamara. Joey, of course, you take a Detroit Lion, Sam Laporta, second tight end off the board here. And honestly, I don't dislike taking Sam Laporta when you can get him as the tight end 2 in the middle of the 4th round. That's a bit different than taking him as the tight end 1 in the middle of the 3rd. After that, Josh Jacobs, Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Joe Mixon, Josh Allen. Of course, Jeff Bell goes Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid to get his Bills stack. Bob Harris follows that up with Mark Andrews. And Jeff, you get Trey McBride, and we see Ken Walker, George Pickens. We are all caught up here. I want to bring up these tight ends that went here. Okay, Bob, because you went Mark Andrews, who Dave and I, we see the tight end landscape as very flat. He could be going as tight end 1 potentially this season, with the type of production we get. So you being able to draft him at tight end 4, round 5, how excited were you about that?
Very excited. And I get Kincaid, and I think maybe he's the leading target getter in that Buffalo offense, but also don't know that it'll be the primary scoring asset. To me, when you watch the Ravens play, the Mark Andrews is the best receiver on the field, and I include all the receivers just about every game. And it's because of the locked-in connection he has with Lamar Jackson, who seems to entrust him implicitly. So I feel like this is a great spot to get him. He's kind of the tripwire play. When I see Laporta and Kelsey go, I start getting a little itchy, and then Kincaid kind of iced the deal for me there.
And then after you went Andrews, Jeff, you went Trey McBride, who former Football Guys staffer Heath Cummings has him as his tight end 1. Once again, this is another guy that we really love. This it seems like you're able to still catch up here on this build. You're not chasing wide receiver necessarily as you get lower into this draft into the 5th round. So Trey McBride there as tight end 5 just feels like a great value.
Yeah, and I was ready to take him if not. I mean, I wanted to take a wide receiver when I took Cooper, but I was thinking hopefully McBride comes around to me because I wanted him over Andrews and over Kincaid. So the reason why is because I think that Arizona is primarily going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride as their targets. And, I'll take that all day long. You can't really say that for that many teams, even Kansas City. I mean, Kelsey, yes, he's a mainstay, but they have so many other options. You don't have that with Arizona. As long as he stays healthy, I think McBride, I'm with Heath. He's going to be great. I like that pick. I like how it kind of worked out for me there where Bell, a Bills fan, of course, taking Kincaid and the Josh Allen stack. And then nothing against you, Bob. I like Andrews as well. I mean, Baltimore is a tight end oriented type of passing offense. So Andrews, as long as he's healthy and good, another good strong pick. But I like what I have in McBride.
And drafting in this room is tough. Things that I could get away with in other draft rooms with maybe not quite as seasoned of veterans as the people in here. Like when I was on the board, when I picked Rashee Rice, I was really eyeballing Mark Andrews. And I said, well, I don't want to draft Mark Andrews here because I'll just kick tight end to the next round and I'll get one of either Andrews, Kincaid, or McBride, who I have tiered very similarly. And that, of course, did not work out at all.
I think that the thing, having done these kind of drafts, these industry drafts and staff drafts, like you just can't wait on anybody. I mean, if you, it's like, and I do it. I'm guilty of it all the time because I'm cheap, right? I don't want to pay for anything. And I sit here and in these drafts, I just get hammered so many times because I'm just not willing to pull the trigger on guys that I have ranked ahead or that I know maybe not everybody feels the same about, but there's always somebody in these rooms. They're smart rooms. And so obviously people often think like me. But it is. It's something that I've learned, I try not to wait. And I feel like when you draft early in the first half of the round, you maybe feel like you're running downhill and you're not as aggressive. I always feel more aggressive in the second half when I'm drafting from the tail end of the draft because I feel like I have to go out and chase guys. I don't feel like that in the early half, and maybe I should.
Well, one of the things that I know Alfredo and I have preached all offseason is don't pay up for Sam Laporta. Wait 3 or 4 rounds, and then you can get your George Kittles and your Kyle Pitts. And here we see that Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce went way later than we're used to seeing in normal drafts. And then Kittle, Pitts, and Ingram, the end of that kind of elite tight ends here, went earlier than expected. So usually where we see all of these top 8 tight ends going over like a 4-round bandwidth, they all got compressed into 2.5 rounds here because everybody is kind of drafting with similar philosophies.
Yeah, and to double down again on why I feel like I guess a couple of us reached on some wide receivers is because like you got to be fluid. And I'm like reading the board here, and I'm like, normally I'm taking my quarterback I want here, but in this type of draft, that value is going to fall. And the same thing kind of happened with tight end. I was just like, wow, realistically, if I do make a bet in this draft, I can get Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram is like my last chance tight end. And lo and behold, look at Clayton there, and how the tight ends went. He's got the last chance tight end, and that's kind of like a teardrop right there.
Well, since we're talking about these tight ends, I think has everyone on the stream? No, Dave, you're on the stream. You have not gotten a tight end here, but I guess everyone else has. So I think we could talk about them. We talk about that tier after Evan Ingram. Who's the next tight end you're looking at? Because I know there's a lot of faith in Brock Bowers, the rookie tight end. There's Jake Ferguson, who was a great target earner last year. Or are you diving back into the David Njoku pool? Dallas Goedert? Are you taking a chance on TJ Hawkinson, putting him on your IR? What are you doing there?
Can we wait about
until you pick
minutes before I may answer that question?
Fine.
I've got a guy sitting in the queue right now.
Let me just jump in right now.
I know who he's gonna pick.
I'm really glad I got Richardson. I didn't want to have to quit this draft right in the middle of it. So I mean, if I lost out, I was throwing a tantrum and quitting immediately. So I feel really good about that pick.
I wish I would have picked him.
Since you asked, when I do miss out on that elite tier, the guy that I'm typically looking for is David Njoku afterwards, who I think possesses similar upside. Obviously, the risk is there that he didn't do it last year with Deshaun Watson, but I think David Njoku is your safest kind of arbitrage option after the top 8.
Okay. Well, I mean, interesting. I usually tend to think our safest option there ends up being Jake Ferguson. Njoku probably has the better upside.
That's mine. Ferguson is mine.
Okay. Let's do this. Bob, you said you were really excited to draft Anthony Richardson in this draft. He's a guy that we tend to see him go right around here, especially in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. So you said you would have just rage quit and left the draft right there had you not gotten Richardson. What makes you so steadfast about wanting to draft Richardson regardless of the scoring format for touchdowns?
Well, I think, the running ability obviously sets him apart. It's something Tristan Cockcroft from ESPN threw out in a piece I thought was pretty fascinating. I mean, like we've seen the upside, but I don't know if we understand it. 0.45 fantasy points per snap was the run up last year. The next highest was Josh Allen at 0.36, right? So, I mean, it's a narrow band, but we all know what Anthony Richardson is. He's that $1 million lottery ticket, could end up being a league-winning kind of player. But the only reason you can take him is because the depth at the position is so great. I can get a player I'm comfortable with in the very late rounds of this draft, who I feel can cover for me and do a reasonably good job. But this is kind of like that super upside play, and I like making that.
And it seems like everyone that's drafted a quarterback so far, I mean, even though it's going a little bit later, there hasn't been much of a change in regards to 4-point versus 6-point per passing touchdown. Everyone is still very willing to go for a rushing quarterback here. Why don't I catch everybody up on the board? Obviously, if you're watching, you can see it, but we'll just go through these audibly really quick here. So after we had that pick of the tight ends, Ken Walker goes to the 504, George Pickens, Patrick Mahomes, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Rashad White, Terry McLaurin, Aaron Jones, and Jalen Hurts. That's odd just to see him in the 6th round, regardless of format. Sig goes Xavier Worthy, which I think we could talk about him for a little bit after this, because Xavier Worthy is starting to pop off, and there's definitely some movement in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about it right now, because Dave, you talked about him earlier, about Xavier Worthy being a guy that could just really surprise folks. What are you doing with this Chiefs wide receiver room? Because I know you're still very high on Rashee Rice, but you were high before on Marquise Brown. I know with the injury, with what we're seeing with Xavier Worthy, how has that changed here in the preseason?
Yeah, the injury is concerning, especially for a new player on a new team. Every single rep in the offseason is so important for a guy like Marquise Brown to get on the same page with Patrick Mahomes. It's opened the door for Xavier Worthy, and as we saw on Saturday's preseason game, it is immediately translating into on-field production. And we knew that was the missing piece from this Chiefs offense, was a guy who could do more than just underneath routes and more than just deep routes, somebody who can kind of do both and keep defenses guessing. I had my chips on Marquise Brown to be that guy, but with him missing the majority of the preseason now, it seems like Xavier Worthy is going to be able to take that role. So I have moved Brown down a little bit in my rankings and bumped Worthy up.
Yeah, are we? Just give me like a thumbs up or a yes or no from everybody here. You cool with Xavier Worthy in the 6th round?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm sorry, you guys are leaving me
Yeah.
all these choices here, and I can't this
That's
is
what a
such an
draft
odd
is,
draft. I know, Alfredo, but it's tough. It's tough.
I'm so sorry that your life is this challenging that you have to pick players for fantasy football. What a rough life you lead. Yeah, you set yourself up for that one. All right, let's catch everybody up here on the draft while Jagger makes the hardest choice. It's a real Sophie's choice out here. Let's go back into the draft board. 603, Clayton goes Evan Ingram, then DeAndre Swift. I went with Christian Kirk at the wide receiver 4. Joey, you went with Keenan Allen, who apparently weighs about 385 pounds right now.
I don't care. I'm loving the chub. Loving the chubbiness. It's fine.
Thank God you cleared that up, man.
Somebody clip that one.
Yeah.
I'm somebody.
And Jagger just ruined my pick that I was going to go with there, so thanks for that. After that, Dave,
I can't believe Jonathan Brooks made it to 8th round in this draft. I thought somebody was reaching for him in round 5 for sure.
I was debating taking him at round 7, and I'm kind of upset that I didn't. I'm so thrown off now. See, this is why I don't like to draft and host. Thanks a lot. Dave goes Lamar Jackson. After that, Dave Montgomery, Najee Harris, Anthony Richardson, as we said. And then Jeff Bell goes Deontay Johnson, Ramondre Stevenson. And then Bob, you went James Conner. We talked about him today on the show that's actually going to be dropping later today on YouTube, that James Conner is probably not getting viewed with the right value. The way he finished the season last year, he could very well still be a top 12 running back. I think people might be overreacting about Trey Benson, the rookie.
Well, we're definitely overreacting about him. I mean, like, we've seen him running back 6 in this, in Arizona, but not in this offense. In this offense, I like his chances just as much, though, especially what we saw late last season with Kyler Murray back. The last 4 games, Arizona averaged 14 yards of offense per game. They're one of the top teams in the red zone, top 3 in red zone rate. And James Conner is going to be a big part of that. I think the workload's going to be there. And I think Trey Benson this year is like maybe a 3rd down back at best, but I don't even know if he'll be that, barring an injury. And we all know, James Conner has a tendency to get nicked up. So does everyone in the NFL. So I'm not afraid to take him here. I think it'll be a good workload. And I love the direction this Drew Petzing offense has taken. Kyler Murray, for a guy who's run an air raid all his life, just jumped into this offense and has been a dominant force. So I've been really impressed with that.
Bob, I just talked about it on today's show earlier today. Like I said, we were discussing James Conner. Most running backs, when you see him hit that like age 27, 28, 29, they start to trend down in efficiency. James Conner on an efficiency basis is coming off of his best season ever. Most yards after contact per attempt since 2019, had the best broken tackle rate of his career. So it's kind of weird that like we'd expect to see a guy James Conner's age with the previous workload that he's had throughout his career. We'd expect to see him trending down in these efficiency metrics, but somehow he's getting better than ever.
Yeah, I've been super impressed with that, but just in general, like the offensive line, a little bit of concern there. But if they cobble that together, I just think having Kyler Murray in the backfield with you, it makes him extra dangerous and kind of will extend his career a little bit.
And based on what we've seen from Trey Benson, I think that was like the biggest reason to fade James Conner was like the investment that they made in Trey Benson. He could figure it out. Like, Trey Benson's story is far from over, but what we've seen through the first 2 weeks of the preseason have been horrendous for Trey Benson, like shying away from contact, little pitter patter feet in the backfield, moving way too much east and west rather than picking up the hard yards. So any concern that Trey Benson was going to come in here and force some sort of timeshare right out the gate, I think we can throw that out the window. I mean, it's very clearly when you watch James Conner next to Trey Benson, James Conner is just the superior running back right now.
I hate you, Bob.
Thank you.
That's always a good sign of a good draft.
So funny because I just did a piece in my fantasy notebook. Everyone go to Football Guys and check that out. Who is the number 1 receiver? And you see.
I hate you, Jeff.
Well, so by the way, I made this move. So I left some of that buffalo cheese out there for Jeff because I knew he would nibble, right? And kind of like call that field a little bit.
Left some of the buffalo cheese out there.
Cheese.
That's so good.
That's great.
But yeah, I think, I know Rob Domofsky thinks this, like, and he took almost all of it. But I know Rob Domofsky thinks Dobbs looks like the guy who's going to be the number 1. Look, I love Christian Watson. I don't want to talk about players who aren't paying, but that's like, I do like him an awful lot, but I think this is a safer play with some of the ancient players that I have so far acquired and that I'm about to acquire. I think an even like kind of that leveling agent is necessary. and I just took my next old guy.
Like I said,
I
think
wanna
one of my
scream.
favorite moves. One of my favorite moves of the draft so far is what Sigmund did in round 6 and 8, where he drafted Xavier Worthy and
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown. I
Love
wrote an
that.
article about how like the one thing that's been missing from this Chiefs offense is a versatile wide receiver who could do more than one things. And like I said, I kind of put my chips on Hollywood Brown, but it could be Xavier Worthy. And I think Sig probably has that similar mindset that there's a missing piece from that offense. Could be Worthy, could be Brown. A lot of people are planting a flag on one or the other. And Sig said, I'm just going to take them both and figure it out at some point in the season. I think that's a really smart move.
And Jeff Hasley, now I hate you. So thanks, man. Takes Chase Brown there at the 903. There's a lot of hate when you get into the middle rounds.
So here comes some strategy involved. When I took CJ Stroud at the tail end of the 8th round, I was thinking maybe I can wait to go quarterback at round 9, and I really wanted to go and get Khalil Shakir, and hoping that he would fall to me in round 9, but that wasn't the case at all. I should have realized that Jeff would have targeted him, so I wanted to go with Shakir and then a quarterback, and instead I wasn't able to do that. So I got Stroud, who I like, of course, everybody likes, and I think that's a good spot for him. That 8th, 9th round. So I pulled the trigger there. I probably, in hindsight, should have waited till the 9th round to get my quarterback and then secured my Shakir pick, but didn't work out that way. Instead, I have Chase Brown now, who I like as well. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'll be looking back at that turn to see how things progress.
Joey, you've been on a non-stop wide receiver drafting spree since the 5th round. Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen, Christian Watson, Jordan Addison, Keon Coleman. Do you feel like you're playing catch up, or are you? What's your confidence level in this group of guys? You said earlier you had some guys later on in the draft that you felt very comfortable drafting.
Chris Godwin, I do believe, is a wide receiver too this year. They move him back to the slot. We've seen what he does there. That's the player I had in my mind when I took Barkley and Breece Hall. I've got some guys later on that are a little deeper down that I think could put wide receiver 2 numbers up. That's Chris Godwin this year for me. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Buccaneers fan. I do believe it. I don't shy away from the chubbiness. So Keenan Allen's on my team. Christian Watson, he's my favorite of the Packers wide receivers. I have seen him going 2nd or 3rd, though, in that wide receiver group. So didn't really like that I got him first, but he was my favorite. And then Addison and Coleman, just play the matchups between those two. I love my wide receiver group now. It's a lot of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s, and I will take that with the running back depth I have. And in my mind, I have the tight end 1 in Sam Laporta. So I love my draft. And there is a QB run. Look at that.
Woo, I was about to say, just like there was a tight end run earlier, I just set off a QB run here, taking Joe Burrow in the 9th round. After that, it goes, Jagger, this is redraft, right? Yeah. Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rookies on this team.
Cool.
Are you that confident in these rookies in redraft formats? I mean, they're obviously all very talented. But you don't typically see this many rookies on one single redraft team.
Basically, with the exception of quarterback, I think that I guess running back too, but running back's different for redraft because we tend to want the rookies because teams tend to use them. So like Jonathan Brooks as my RB3, I think is great value. He's going to start on the pup. He might not be himself until week 6, but I'm okay with that, because I got Bijan Robinson, who's obviously my hero, and DeAndre Swift. As far as the Caleb Williams thing, Dave will love this. I'm taking a little bit of best ball brain. The way I set my receivers is I had Nico Collins, Michael Pittman, Roma Dunze. So I basically set my queue that I was either going to go Anthony Richardson, Bob took him, okay, CJ Stroud, while I was like looking at the board, so I'm going to wait. Then sure enough, Jeff took CJ. And then now, since I got Roma Dunze and I got Swift, I kind of anticipated that Caleb Williams was going to be my guy. And then, Swift being, pass catching running back, I just kind of chasing a little bit of that, correlation there. Brock Bowers, I consider a wide receiver. And I said, I'm going to take Brock Bowers right then. and put him in my flex, even though there's no tight end premium, because that's how I think the Raiders are going to use him. And I'm going to feel good because I'm going to get another wide receiver later. But seeing as I've been sniped on every one of my backup wide receiver plans, like Dubs, Shakir, and Wicks, I'm now you guys are watching me reel in live action. So that's kind of my strategy there and why I went with some of these rookies.
Well, then we'll get off you for a moment so that you can.
I just want to. Can we go back to Sig's team? I mean, he's going with some ultimate upside plays here. Jaden Daniels and Nick Chubb. If he gets it all together. I mean, there's a lot of risk associated with this approach, but I like it an awful lot. I wish that was my team.
I was going to say Sig's got the best draft so far. I would swap my entire team out for Sig's team right now. I love what he's doing.
I think something you said in that thread I mentioned earlier, David, like there's 3 quarterbacks you're after. I'm after the same 3, and Daniels being the last of them, and also the most reasonably priced, right? Like I think you mentioned Richardson, Murray, and Daniels as being the kind of guys with maybe league winning upside. And Daniel, we've already seen the risk with Daniels, though. I mean, he's on double secret probation, according to Dan Quinn, for his willingness to take contact. He is not Anthony Richardson, by the way. He's 210 pounds.
He's listed at 210 pounds. I don't know if he's 200. Right. He looks like he's about $185.
He needs to figure this out. But you look at the playmaking ability from his Heisman Trophy winning season. I mean, this guy is going to be trouble if he can stay on the field. And same with Richardson. And I think Murray is the overlooked asset of that trio. Going at a really reasonable price as well. But I mean, we've seen him produce at quarterback 2 levels during the course of his career so far. And I think, he has that path to the high end receiving and rushing totals that can set him apart.
Yeah. Murray's 2 worst seasons, his rookie year, he was the QB 12. And then last year he was the QB 9 coming off an ACL tear. Outside of that, he's been a top 5 quarterback every single season that he's been in the league. So, Alfredo likes to make the joke all the time, but I think he's just people like to make so many memes about Kyler Murray because he's short and he likes video games, and that bleeds into everybody's perception of him. But the fact of the matter is, when he's on the field, he is just a fantasy points scoring machine.
Agreed. Does it do anything for you guys in the preseason seeing Caleb Williams be mobile? Like, we knew he had it in him, but he's not someone like Jaden Daniels. Did that affect your redraft rankings of him? Because, knowing who the Bears are and, they don't have the perfect offensive line, he's probably going to have to scramble a little bit.
I talked about that a lot. Yeah, I've been saying that that I think he was underrated as a rusher, and we see these guys often that are very athletic in college and don't rush a lot, and then they add that to their tool bag a little bit at the NFL level, and we're already seeing that with Caleb Williams. He's never going to be like an 800-yard rusher, but he's going to scramble near the goal line, and it's going to be a lot like Patrick Mahomes, I think, where he just kind of has that nose for the first down marker and that nose for the end zone. And, he's not going to have elite rushing upside, but if he can add 350 to 450 rushing yards and a handful of touchdowns, that drastically raises his ceiling. So I think people have been so enamored with Jaden Daniels, and rightfully so. He's got the immense upside. He could be the overall QB1, but given the athleticism from Caleb Williams and the surrounding talent that he has, I don't think a top 5 finish is all that out of the question for his rookie season.
All right, let's catch everybody up here on this draft. Starting with the 9th round here. Jeff Bell has gone with the Buffalo Bills super stack of Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel. After that, we see some of the old guys go off the board. DeAndre Hopkins, Chase Brown, Kyler Murray, who was just mentioned. Dave, you've got your 2 running backs here, Brian Robinson and Tyjae Spears. I'll come back to you in just a moment so you can talk about them. After that, Jerome Ford, Keon Coleman. We see the quarterback run of Burrow, Williams, Prescott, and Daniels. After that, Jerry Jeudy, Tyler Lockett, Sigmund Bloom. Taking a shot here on Nick Chubb in the 10th round, who, man, okay, I got to ask about this. Bob, how do you feel about Nick Chubb? Because every piece of data says to avoid older running backs. Every piece of data says to avoid older running backs coming off of injury. But there's still a world where Nick Chubb is a phenomenal fantasy running back. Are you okay with drafting him in the 10th round? Where are you looking to draft him, if at all?
That's where I would draft him, but I don't live in that world where he's going to be a fantastic running back. Look, I hope he is. I hope I'm 100% wrong, right? But this is a second series of devastating knee injuries. I see all the video. I see everything going on. I hear his personal trainer saying all the best. When the Browns redid his contract to keep him around for next year, to me, that was maybe a signal that that's what they're aiming for, right? They keep using very vague language when they talk about him. He'll be back at some point this year. Okay. at some point? Is that like, I just don't know. I don't have a good feeling about it. I think if you believe in it, this is a fair price to pay for it, for the upside. If you believe he's going to play and be Nick Chubb, then that's absolutely, you're getting a huge steal for whatever portion of the season you get. It's not for me. I'd rather take chances elsewhere.
Dave.
Like there.
Dave.
So you made a good pick when you hear everybody in the draft.
I want to go back to Hasley too, picking Chase Brown as well. I mean, really irritating picks have been made here.
Yeah, Chase Brown was who I wanted, and settled for Tajay Spears, which I don't hate, but Chase Brown would have been a nice pick there. And this is the type of stuff like if I was drafting with my buddies, I could get away with waiting on Chase Brown. But I don't know his ADP off the top of my head, but I think Chase Brown went like 40 spots. Well, you know what I'm saying. My casual non-fantasy football content creator friends. But I think Chase Brown went about 40 spots ahead of his sleeper ADP here. And that's why with Jalen Wright, his ADP is in the 160s. In a casual draft, I could wait for Chase Brown, but picked him right there in the 11th round and heard everybody after me groaning, knowing that it was probably a good pick because there was no chance Jalen Wright was making it back to me.
He was not. Yeah.
No, because if Jagger either, so.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I was about to say, I was like, if Alfredo wasn't going to take him, I was right then. So it's like, and this is like Alfredo's making fun of me for taking rookies. Who else are you going to take who has real upside towards these later rounds? I mean, we have the data that once you get past like round 7 and beyond, you're better off taking chances on these younger guys because they're going to get more opportunities than these old dusty guys. I mean, that's just what it is for me. It's like, I'll keep my redraft hat on until about round 7 or 8. And then I'm basically playing dynasty at that point, unless it's just a super Ty Chandler, someone that I thought I was about to draft. So
I was really hoping I'd get one of those this draft. Yes. All right, guys.
I was intentionally trying to not take Trey Benson. So
and now you're back on the Trey Benson bus. Sorry, pal. All right, let's get everybody up here in round 10. You see Josh Palmer, let's start the other way. Tyler Lockett, Nick Chubb, Dontavian Wicks, A.D. Mitchell, Jalen Warren, who we know is suffering from a hamstring injury at the moment, Gus Edwards, Zach Moss, who this is interesting. The ADP has kind of flipped for these guys. And Jeff, I'll bring this up to you because you drafted Chase Brown. Chase Brown going, a full round and a half ahead of Zach Moss. It seems like that is the way to go because you are getting the player with the more explosive upside, the receiving upside, all in a good offense. Is that kind of just where your head was at? Is just go upside over the alleged starter over there in Cincy?
Yeah, and I just think that listening to Bengals fans who have watched and either been at practice to see the difference, it just seems that Chase Brown is a little bit ahead of Zach Moss right now. So if that's the case now, once he starts to put forth some good weeks, that might be his job to lose.
I'm with you, Jeff. I think that's such a good pick. And I think people have this idea that Chase Brown is just going to be the change of pace guy and could rip off a big play every now and then, but fail to remember that he had over 300 carries his final year in college, second in the NCAA in scrimmage yards behind only Bijan Robinson. So I'm all in on Chase Brown. I could see him, being the guy that we're looking back at saying, how did he fall to where he did? Because the drumbeat right now to Cincinnati is just pounding. Like they cannot stop talking about him. You look at his efficiency last year on a small sample size. He was one of the most efficient running backs in the league. So if that grows a little bit, you're looking at a talented young running back and a really good offense. It's really easy to see the upside case for him.
Oh, guys, and Sigmund
never fails. It never fails. Can I go off? Can I please go off? I love the chat. I do. But every time somebody in the chat says, hey, no one's taking a quarterback or this quarterback's left, I'm up because that's the quarterback I always want. Someone will be like, oh, maybe I should grab a second quarterback because I know Sig, everyone thinks he's so good at fantasy football. No. He wasn't even thinking of it. Jordan Love should be on my team right now. But
yeah, Jeff.
My fault for passing on him to take Austin Eckler.
You okay, pal?
You did him dirty. Yeah. That was so good. That was so good.
Joey, I'm just wondering, do you realize you don't have a quarterback yet?
Yeah,
you have to start a quarterback in this league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
We do play quarterbacks in this league.
It's not going to take one. I don't need him.
I'm just really excited for Dave to draft Ezekiel Elliott here.
Stop naming players that are top of the queue. Yes, you know who I'm waiting for. Let's not put it out there.
Sorry if I gave it away. All right.
I knew that Zeke was more likely to make it back to me than Jalen Wright was, and here we are, 2 picks away, and I'm sure Joey's going to take him now that you put his name out there.
Joey needs a quarterback.
He's already has two Ezekiel Elliott's ahead of you right there, in Edwards and Eckler. He doesn't need another, does he?
Yeah.
You know, the only thing better than one old dusty running back is 3 old dusty running backs.
Look, man, I'm all about the old things. Come on.
I'm gonna take this.
All right, let's catch everybody up here. Jeff Bell takes a guy who I was hoping would fall to me here in the 11th round, in Blake Corum, who, Dave, you and I talked about him probably being the handcuff running back or the backup running back with maybe the most contingent upside. And he goes here in the 11th round. After that, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Polk, Jacoby Myers, Jalen Wright, Rashid Shaheed, Austin Eckler, Ty Chandler, Trey Benson, Jagger was sad, Pat Freiermuth, Mike Williams, Chuba Hubbard. Then we get into the 12th with Gabe Davis. Joey absolutely loses his mind when Jordan Love goes off the board. Clayton Gray takes Jared Goff. We see Pop Douglas, Ricky Pearsall, Darnell Mooney. You know Dave was sad about that one. Rico Dowdle, Ezekiel Elliott. Look, you got to do it, bud. And then Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa. Whew. Guys, we're seeing a lot of teams with 2 quarterbacks in this league.
The only expert league in the world that people are taking 2 quarterbacks.
It's true. It's kind of
hilarious.
Are we just trolling Joey at this point?
I think so.
Is that what's happening? Oh man, you know what? You did have an option for Taysom Hill at quarterback. He just got drafted at 1301.
Tight end designation on sleeper, so that wouldn't have even.
He's got both. He's got both tight end and quarterback
right.
designation. Yeah, I was looking at it because I would have thought I thought about it at the 1205 because it would have just been that funny.
I was in a live draft.
Jeff, baby, why you got to do me like that?
I somehow got past Jeff Bell. How is that even possible, right? Kudos to Bob for taking the 2 running backs that I wanted to go with. But I like Ray Davis as well. So take that, Jeff Bell.
Jeff on Jeff crime there. I'm not
Love it.
Alfredo is a villain. What are you doing, dog? Like, you got a mirror around here somewhere? This feels personal, my guy. It feels personal.
Devious. All I have to do is just throw a rock at a rookie, and I know he was in your queue. Okay.
Oh, shut up. Okay.
It's almost like everybody on this show has spent the last 6 months bouncing fantasy football takes off of each other.
Yeah,
everyone knows each other's tendencies, and we all have just conglomerated into this mush brain, sharing a lot of the same takes.
Guys, I do want to report something. Breaking news. At pick 1307, Joey Wright has selected his first quarterback, Justin Herbert. Joey, the floor is yours.
I wanted Trevor Lawrence. I was ready to talk about Trevor Lawrence.
I saw you have a mini panic attack, a mini freak out.
Yeah. No, and listen, Justin Herbert, hopefully the foot's going to be fine. I can never say it. Plantar fasciitis. Did I say it right?
You said it.
You
said
Holy cow. Look at me go.
Proud of you.
You know, it's probably going to plague him for a few weeks. But I'm fine with him. I'm going
Could be years. I don't know if you remember Antonio Gates. He was battling that for about 4 seasons.
One thing I would like to point out is whoever comes in last place in this league gets booted out, and the winner of the Footballguys Bowl gets brought in. So it's going to be fun.
Joey's just doing his due diligence and just setting the floor for the winner of this draft.
What a community manager, just to move out of the way to let the next people come in. No, if I'm going to be weak at a position, let it be quarterback. Because I know how to recover from that. And then Kirk Cousins was taken, and I don't know what to do. I'll be fine.
If Kirk Cousins was like your insurance plan, you freak out. You know what? We've been talking about this all offseason.
I'm taking Deshaun Watson. That's it.
There's full circle for Joey. The dog pound loves you once again. You're back. We're so back. Good for you, Joey. Well, we've talked about this all offseason. Quarterback actually is really deep, and the fact that a bunch of people were taking 2 quarterbacks as just kind of a troll it's pretty funny. Guys, I mean, right now, let me update the draft board. By the way, I do need to move this a little bit for everybody. Guys, is 2 quarterbacks something that you would be doing in any league like this where you're not doing super flex? I mean, it does seem a bit early for all of us to do this. A bit like let's put the bit aside.
I think I'm the only one who
draft.
I'm the only one who me and Sig, have excuses where our quarterbacks put themselves at great risk.
Yes.
I think beyond that, maybe a little less. Like, I mean, a little less for me. But I'm starting to get a little antsy here because if something happens to Richardson, and I have it on good authority, he puts himself in position for that to happen. And by the way, can I get up on my soapbox? Permission, please?
Do it.
All teams. Look at what Miami did with Tua Tagovailoa. They put some time and energy into helping him overcome the shortcomings that put him at risk of getting injured, right? He didn't know how to fall. They taught him how to fall. There are people out there who take punches and absorb blows for a living who survive to do it again. Bring those people in and pay some money. Invest in your franchise quarterbacks. You're paying these guys $500 million over the next 10 years. Put some money into keeping them healthy. Teach them how to take blows. Teach them how to fall. Teach them how to avoid blows. All of those things. Soapbox. Done.
The Chicago Bears invested $30 on Amazon in a slip and slide.
That's all they needed, right?
Which I don't know if you saw. One of their quarterbacks actually got whiplash from that drill. I forget who it was. It wasn't one of the top three. Their fourth string quarterback missed the next week of practice with whiplash from the slip and slide.
Whip and lash
and the slip slide.
All right, let's get everybody up here on the draft.
Real quick, Alfredo.
Yeah, please. Oh, you got another quarterback, bud. Good for you.
No, I did, but Waffles is here. He is my favorite person from Sunday Morning Live.
Hey,
Waffles every week. Yep, because he has a picture of pancakes and his name's Waffles, and I just love that joke. Okay, I'm done.
All right, let's get everybody up here. Going into the 13th round, where Jeff Bell goes with the cheat code of all fantasy football, Taysom Hill, who, by the way, if you are like Dave, you've converted me throughout the offseason here. If you are the person who just does not want to draft a tight end early and you just want to wait, you draft Taysom Hill because he's going to have the same amount of upside as anyone else, like basically from tight end 10 through 50. Doesn't really matter. And he can give you tight end 1 overall weeks. After that, we see J.K. Dobbins, Ray Davis, Dalton Schultz, Zach Charbonnet, Trevor Lawrence, and Joey screamed into the void. Justin Herbert, Jalen McMillan, then Jagger screamed into the void. Marshawn Lloyd, Michael Wilson, Bucky Irving, Troy Franklin, Kirk Cousins, Braylon Allen, Rashad Bateman, Khalil Herbert. I screamed into the void. Demarcus Robinson, Matt Stafford, Isaiah Likely, Tyrone Tracy, not a shocker for Dave, Roshan Johnson, Javon Baker, Baker Mayfield, Antonio Gibson, Jordan Mason, Adam Thielen, Marvin Mims, and then the first defense off the board in the 15th round here at the San Francisco 49ers. And Dave, just to be funny, or maybe he meant it for real, takes Deshaun Watson so that Joey can't do the coveted 3 quarterback play here in this league.
Watson is one of my favorite late round quarterbacks, and I already made the investment in David Njoku, so figure I might as well just follow that up with Watson. And hopefully this narrative that we have just been programmed to believe that Deshaun Watson is just disgusted by tight ends, maybe it can be disproven this year.
Well, everyone else is out here drafting quarterbacks, so I'm going to draft one too. I'll take Geno Smith here to pair up with DK Metcalf. He's one of those guys that I really like in the later rounds.
I want to say that we almost need to do that now because there's not going to be anything left on the waiver wire. So
exactly.
It's like you got to get your QB2. Normally you're like, well, I don't draft a QB2. It's like, well, in this league, now that things have changed, you should probably have one. And that's why I'm going here.
Yeah, you kind of have to. And it's a perfect understanding of being able to adjust to the draft board. And you might go into a draft with a certain notion that you're going to draft a certain way, and you do have to adjust. I think we all started to see that when tight ends started to go a little bit later, quarterbacks were going a little bit later, wide receivers were going early. I mean, guys, wide receiver really dried up around round
6th round.
Yeah.
Okay.
6. Yeah.
Round 6, Checker.
Jeff.
Well, it did. It did.
What, Jeff? What round did you say?
I said
6 too. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look at it. I mean, it's if you look at the
pretty.
7th, 8th. Well, I like Khalil Shakir in the end of the 8th. That's a great pick. But yeah, I mean, before that, I don't know. Some
no, it's not pretty.
I think the tier fall off is after McLaurin. I typically see Deontay Johnson going right after that, and then that's where I think like McLaurin, Deontay Johnson is kind of the the cliff for wide receivers. And I was surprised to see some of the wide receivers that went before Deontay in this draft. But yeah, I think round 5, 6 is really like, if you don't have some solid wide receivers by then, you're especially in a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers and you can have 2 flexes. I definitely want to get my wide receivers early, as you can see by my draft.
Dave taking direct shots at Joey and I.
No, I can't wait.
He almost said rookie, so I thought it was me. I thought it was me. He's like some of the rookies that would had a Deontay.
Well, Alfredo, talk to me about it, because I know Deontay is a guy that like you've talked about liking a lot this offseason. I was surprised to see Christian Kirk ahead of Deontay.
That's how I have them ranked. I feel like they are very similar players. Christian Kirk averaging 7.5 targets per game in his career with Trevor Lawrence. You may not have the crazy upside of like a top 5 guy, but Christian Kirk has been a top 12 receiver before. And for me to have the target volume floor with the upside of being Trevor Lawrence's wide receiver 1 in an offense that could improve, I'm happy to take that discount right now, because I know a lot of people are really, really excited about Brian Thomas Jr. And it's the magic show thing where we're all looking at the pretty stuff over here and forgetting what's going on over here. So I still love Christian Kirk at where he's going, especially as a wide receiver 4. I'll take that all day. All right, guys. I am back up to pick. I want to actually throw this one to Jeff Hasley, because you got an interesting pick here in the 15th round. Marvin Mims, a guy who a lot of us were in love with a year ago, second-year player, Broncos offense that we don't know a whole lot about. Where are we at with Marvin Mims for redraft and for dynasty? Because this is a guy that if he does break out in any way here, a 15th round value is, incredible.
Well, I think he's a player who just has not reached his full potential as of yet. And honestly, after Cortland Sutton, who else is going to be that wide receiver for Bo Nix in Denver? And I think it could be Marvin Mims. So I like Mims. I have him in a couple dynasty leagues. The Scott Fishbowl league that has returning yards, I've got him there. So I don't know. Maybe I have a little bit of a man crush on him, just from his, just from seeing what he can do, what he's capable of. I just think we can see a whole lot more. In Oklahoma, he was obviously the best receiver on the field. And that hasn't necessarily translated to the NFL. Who knows? Maybe Bo Nix can unlock that for him. I like what I've seen in Nix so far, and Mims has a chance. And heck, in the 15th round, why not?
Yeah, and that's the exact mentality we have to have here in the 15th round. What the heck? Why not? That's what I ended up doing here with my pick here in the 16th round, going Kendre Miller, who the reports haven't been great, but I've got Alvin Kamara on my team, and I said, okay, well, what the heck? Why not? You start to see the value dry up really in a big way here. We see another defense come off the board here in the 15th round. Or excuse me, that was the first defense in the 15th round. Our next defense, Cleveland Browns, come off the board in the 16th. Jagger, you are the first person on the stream to draft a defense. Are you typically the first or second guy in your draft to draft a defense here?
No, it's one of those things where all the other value around I didn't think mattered as much as having a safe defense. Like I know that Cleveland, that's the one thing that I know is good in Cleveland is their defense. So like, why not have a little bit of at least currently right now, perceived positional upside instead of reaching for like a team's 4th wide receiver at this point?
Yep, that makes perfect sense. And we're starting to see players that maybe fantasy drafters aren't even that familiar with, because most drafts are typically going 15 to 16 rounds. So we are getting to the end of what would be a normal draft, but we're not a normal drafting company right here. We're going 20 rounds. And let's update everybody here on the 16th round as we see Cole Kmet off the board, Cade Otton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Cleveland Browns defense, Kendre Miller, DJ Chark, Andre Yoshivas, Quentin Johnston. What a fall. Alexander Madison at the 1609, Justice Hill at the 1610, and Dave's heart broke right there at the 1611, Tyler Boyd, and 2 defenses for Jeff Bell, because sure, why not? New York Jets and the Baltimore Ravens, and Tyler Conklin, Chigo Okonkwo. Guys, the 2 defense approach. This draft is getting weird. We're going 2 defenses, 2 quarterbacks. We're just doing a bunch of stuff you don't normally see in drafts. Is that Bob? I'm going to ask you, like, is that just because it's a bunch of like industry people that all work together, or are we just what's going on?
It's 20 round draft. You can take some chances on things and ensure yourself against the bye week in advance of dealing with the bye week, which like I'm horrible at dealing with bye weeks. We're all busy during the season, and maybe that's part of it. But I do think like something Dave mentioned, and you just hinted at. I mean, when you're working with people, like I don't like when I draft with Mike Dempsey, who's my co-host on the Sirius XM show. I mean, we drive prices up because we know who each other like. And I'm sure Dave, you and Alfredo are probably the same. You're doing shows together all the time. When you're
Dave has Alfredo muted.
You know that's true, but you know that you're going to have to reach for certain players. And I do think when you're working with a group of workmates or people who are consuming the same content or working on similar content, and everyone kind of knows what everyone's thinking, it does tend to make you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do.
Yeah, like I was talking on today's show that's going to come out a little bit later today, saying that Justice Hill was my favorite pick beyond round 20. And then here Jeff Hasley is taking him in round 16, just completely blown. Like what I think I could wait 4 or 5 rounds for a guy like Justice Hill, and Jeff is out here taking him way earlier than I've ever would have expected. But it's a great pick, and
every single player I thought I could wait on in this draft, I shouldn't have waited on, and it explains where Jaleel McLaughlin. I mean, I just felt like at that point I want that receiving back in the Sean Payton offense. I mean, we can go back to Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles. I mean, it's been consistent throughout the course of his career. There's a guy that's going to get a good workload here, Thomas. I mean, and I think that now McLaughlin's that guy. And so I feel like I maybe reached for him a little bit, but I didn't think like Jeff mentioned, he wasn't making it much further.
Jagger, I love that Tucker pick. I was watching a lot of that game this week, and he's going to be a big part of that offense. I like that pick.
Yeah,
I worry about
I
worry about Jacoby Myers, like actually, like in this offense, since Trey Tucker's just so much more explosive, and I think Myers and Adams are kind of redundant as far as how like the roles they play. Sorry, Bob.
No, I love the player. I just wonder if there's enough offense there to go around.
That's a good point.
Like something like about like we talk about offenses that aren't good, and you could look at last year at Carolina. And let's say New England, the 2 lowest scoring offenses, there were pieces there that were good. You just can't mine too deep, right? You have to skim the surface, to me, of lousy offenses. So I'm hoping the Raiders are a better offense, we think. But, we're already looking at the usage for Brock Bowers. They're putting him in all kinds of different places. You mentioned Jacoby Myers. I mean, people forget he was a wide receiver 24 last year. I mean, every year we underestimate him, and every year he continues to deliver. So that's my concern with digging deeper into that Raiders offense is that maybe there's not going to be enough offense to go around.
And, you guys are talking about something about like not being able to get players at the ADP that you normally do. I think that's what happens when you get into a very competitive league. You kind of have to go and reach for the players you want, for the guys you want. So when you see someone and you're thinking, maybe I could wait another round, you honestly end up being better not doing that. Is that something that you felt like you've had to do a little bit here, Dave?
Sorry, I was thinking through my next pick and didn't hear anything you said.
That's
I'll
pretty,
answer.
So sorry.
Pretty far
muted in real life too.
That's pretty
I'll
far.
answer yes.
How about Jagger? Let's go to Jagger.
Yeah, we'll say yes, man. That's my Trey Tucker thing. Because like Bob is right. I'm at the point in the draft where like after round 15 is I don't care anymore. I just want guys I like at this point. I want pieces I like. ADP doesn't matter for me anymore. And I know if I don't take them, like Joey likes Trey Tucker, like I'm taking shots. Cause like I'm not going to argue with Bob because Bob's right. The Raiders have a lot of reasons to be terrible. So, but if they're going to be terrible, I want the fastest guy on the team.
But I do think your point, it's fair. I mean, we're at a point in the draft where, we're throwing darts essentially at some players, and why not throw them at players you like? And as I watched some of the players I like that I thought might still be here, I'm looking at you, Jalen Tolbert. Thanks, Clayton. I mean, go ahead and take your chance while you have it.
Jeff Bell, I want you to know, I'm not dunking on you. I'm asking a question for the sake of content. It's okay. We love you. I do like to ask these questions. I ask the same questions about quarterbacks when the draft itself expands to 20 rounds, things change a little bit. And I don't typically find myself in 20-round drafts against industry experts all that often. So I love to ask these questions, especially for our audience. So Jeff, I love you. 2 defenses, perfectly acceptable. It's okay. Joey, you get your 3rd quarterback.
Yeah,
Bryce
I
Young.
actually want to talk about it. Like we've seen Dave Canellis turn Geno Smith around. We've seen him turn Baker Mayfield around. Bryce Young's probably the most talented quarterback he's ever had. Is there a world, Alfredo? Is there a world where Bryce Young is like a top 15 quarterback this year because of the Dave Canales just sprinkling of magic?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we can pass that around, but I mean, I think there's absolutely
Dave Canales too. Yeah, it's also Deontay Johnson and
absolutely,
bringing in Xavier Legette and Jonathan Brooks and Robert Hunt to beef up the interior offensive line. Like, it's more than just Canales. They've made a lot of investments in that offense. So I'm way higher than consensus on Bryce Young. I'm pretty happy with my 2 quarterbacks, but I'd have been looking at him in round 15 or 16 if I needed another quarterback.
Guys, let's check in on Bob Harris in just a moment, who dropped a sorry, Joe, you're on the live stream, because it looks like Jeff Bell took someone he really wanted.
He really did. People have been totally ignoring Deontay Foreman, and he's probably going at the right price. But if I don't think Nick Chubb is going to be around for any period of time, Deontay Foreman is, and he's shown in the past he can help fill a void. Jerome Ford is probably the preferred option, but not at cost. I mean, Deontay Foreman is for me the preferred option at cost. So. That was a brutal beatdown by Jeff Bell. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely brutal. Yeah, Deontay Foreman's one of those guys that we've talked about that should be like one of the guys you're prioritizing with one of your last picks, just because we truly don't know what's going to be happening with this Browns backfield. Guys, we're getting into the final 2 rounds here, so I want to go back and maybe instead of like really harping on these 19th and 20th round picks, I want to ask each of you guys, which has been your favorite pick that you've had so far? Bob, let's start with you. Who's been your favorite pick you were able to select here?
It was Richardson. It's in round 6. I'm generally seeing him go in round 5. I wasn't sure I would be able to land him. The quarterbacks obviously started going a little later, and it's understandable in this group that people would be a little bit more dialed back. But landing him where I landed him was my favorite pick. But I like almost all of them until what? Oh, I don't know. Around 10, and then I started getting dicey. I think Brandon Cooks is a super overlooked option going, and unlike the Raiders or the Panthers or the Patriots or teams that we think are going to struggle scoring, that's not going to be a problem for the Dallas Cowboys, especially with the passing attack. And you wonder how effective their running game will be. And the reporting on Cooks has been positive. Really good career. So I like that pick too.
Jeff Hasley, you've gone through 19 picks here. Which one, please say Ray Davis in the 13th round, has been your favorite pick that you've made so far?
Favorite pick's got to be Trey McBride, I think, falling to me as what the 5th tight end. I like that pick. What else? I don't know. I have a lot of what ifs, especially at wide receiver. Like the wide receiver 4, 5, 6. It's going to be like a committee for me, and who's going to make it to that number 3 or 4 spot is going to be interesting to see. I've got both of the rookie New England picks, as well as Mims, who we already talked about, Xavier Legette. He's looking pretty good. We haven't really seen anything out of the Panthers in preseason because the starters haven't played. We talked about Bryce Young already. He didn't play against the Jets. Week 1, he didn't play at all. So we haven't seen any snaps from him in preseason. However, they did have an organized practice against the Jets, and he had 3 touchdown passes plus a rushing touchdown against the Jets starters. So
Legette did, you said, Jeff?
Sorry? No. Bryce Young did. Bryce Young did. That just kind of goes along the lines of how is Bryce going to develop and grow in his second year. So I like Legette. He has that.
I want to ask. Yeah, I want to ask about Legette because he's one of my favorite prospects, and I haven't heard a ton. You see all the clips with him, he's great in interviews and whatnot, but I haven't heard a lot about his actual play. So you, with your kind of ear to the street down there in Carolina, does it sound like he's doing pretty well so far?
So far, so good. I mean, he also had a hamstring injury that was more of I think just a very minor grade 1 type of strain. So he was out for a little bit. He came back. Again, we haven't seen anybody in preseason because they just haven't played any of their starters. All of their they had 30 something inactive players in their 2 preseason games. They have 1 more against Buffalo. I'm not sure if we'll see them or not, but he's been good in practice. He's going up and getting those contested balls, which is something that they didn't really have last year. He's good after the catch. So there's some optimism for Leggett and for Bryce Young and the Panthers offense this year. We'll see. I don't see them as a bottom 3 team. I see them a little bit higher than that. I would say their ceiling might be like the low 20s. So, we'll see. They're a work in progress, but I think the offense is definitely going to be an improvement over last year.
Dave, you're next up on here. I know that you're picking right now. So you made your pick right here in the 20th round, but I want to ask you, who was your favorite pick of this draft?
I like the whole section that I got from picks 11 to 14. Somebody who's kind of leaned into a lot of zero running back or hero running back builds this year. I feel like you just get really good value there. And obviously these guys all have question marks: Jalen Wright, Ezekiel Elliott, Zach Charbonnet, Tyrone Tracy, but you're swinging for upside there. And, talked about the upside with Jalen Wright, his speed in this offense. We could be looking at similar production that we got from Achane last year. Zeke Elliott, just has the ability to take all the high value touches out of the backfield in Dallas, which I really like there. Zach Charbonnet, a player who didn't do much as a rookie. People have just kind of pushed down now. I didn't expect to get Charbonnet in round 13. I think from a value standpoint, that's probably my favorite overall pick. And then Tyrone Tracy, a guy that I haven't stopped talking about this offseason, converted wide receiver, who they're going to do whatever they can to get the ball in his hands. Luckily, avoided a major injury. In most drafts, I would have waited to get him a little bit longer, but I didn't think that he'd fall too much further in this draft.
Can I just chime in here? I think to me, the pick of the draft here might end up being like a guy like Justin Fields. Jason Wood got him in the last round. If he ends up being the starter, might have got a top 10 quarterback. One of the, he would join that crew of potentially league-winning players in the 20th round. I think that's a pick I would have made had it been available to me.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to draft when you're not on a live stream. Just going to say that for all of you who chickened out and didn't get on camera. Just going to say that. And in perfect Dave Kluge fashion, I asked him which was his favorite pick. He picked 4 guys. Joey Wright, who is your favorite pick from your roster?
Yeah, I've been in pretty much every draft this offseason. There's 5 tight ends, and I want to walk away from my draft with one of them. And when I'm waiting to the 4th round, it's usually Andrews or Kincaid I'm getting, and I don't hate that. But to be able to get my tight end 1 in the 4th round when I'm normally taking him in the 3rd, and had I gone wide receiver in the 1st or 2nd, I probably would have taken Laporta in the 3rd. So to get him a complete round later, I'll go back to it. It's my favorite pick I made. I'm super happy with it. I love my team. I can't wait to see how this league plays out. It's a different type of build for me, so it'll be different than any other team I have this year, except for Sam Laporta. And I did notice something. This is the only team I have, I believe, this offseason that does not have Demarcus Robinson on it. So thank you, Alfredo, for taking him.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Also, I'll only say this because we're on a live stream right now. Normally when we're pre-recording, I don't mention it, but I don't know if you guys saw it just came out. Curtis Samuel has turf toe. Yep. And they said he's going to be missing multiple weeks. So
shambles.
Yeah,
week to week. Got their other 4 wide receivers, so he's fine.
Yeah, week to week. I'm looking. Jeff Mueller, who does really good injury work, said that it's typically a 3 to 4 week injury, but has a high chance of re-injury as well. So I think Jeff did the right thing. Kind of coupling him with Khalil Shakir, doubling down on potentially hitting the Bills wide receiver 1, right? But you can't help but knock Samuel down a little bit in right.
Yeah, you have to. And I'm sure they're super disappointed. Talking to Ryan O'Halloran, who's like a really level-headed beat writer for the Buffalo News. Everyone should check him out. But he's been of the opinion since OTAs that Curtis Samuel is going to be a very busy player. If he ended up with 100 touches, he would not be surprised.
My pick that I think ended up being my favorite one that I was able to make here was Joe Burrow in the 9th round of this draft. Mm-hmm. And specifically because it's a 6-point per passing touchdown league. Dave, you and I, a lot of people don't know this. We have
a show together.
We did. Not only do we do a show together, but we have a lost episode that will be in the archives forever and ever.
Oh my God. Yes.
That was about how to beat the average draft position on Yahoo Fantasy. We recorded an entire thing, put it up. It was up for maybe 5 minutes. Realized it was the ADP for Underdog Fantasy. And I remember in that episode saying, man, 8th round for Joe Burrow is nuts. That's crazy. Normally, consensus has him in the 6th round. So I'm super happy to get him here in the 9th round, even better than our lost episode. I think that's going to be my favorite pick for my team here in the draft. Jagger, what about you?
I know that you hated on me, but mine is Caleb Williams.
Guys, if I say something about you doesn't mean I hate on you. Maybe I have to adjust my tone a little bit because Jeff Bell said I was dunking on him as well. I'll just be nicer.
No, it's fine. It just
hold my
fuels
breath.
my fire. Yeah, it fuels my fire. It's Caleb Williams for almost all the same reasons that you said. It's 6 point for passing TDs, but on top of that, we're seeing Caleb Williams use that athleticism and that become a part of his game. And I think that this team will scheme a lot of that up. And believe it or not, I love my investment in the Bears in general. Like having Swift and Khalil Herbert makes me feel good, whereas just having DeAndre Swift or Herbert feels less good. But it could be one of those situations where if you only have if you have two running backs, you don't have any type thing. Either way, the Bears I think are a good value in what could be a high-powered offense.
Well, there you have it, guys. We went through 20 rounds. We drafted our teams. We've got a full draft board here. This was a fantastic time. We actually went way over an hour, which is very, very foreign for this channel, but it was a lot of fun to do a live stream and be here with you guys drafting. This is for the Football Guys Bowl in 2024. And if you were not able to sign up for it this year, you are able to go to footballguys.com and get yourself on the wait list for next year. As always, I want to remind everybody, make sure you're subscribed to not only this channel, Football Guys Fantasy Football, but to the Football Guys Dynasty channel and to the Audible as well. And also be subscribed to the daily Football Guys newsletter, where you're going to get all the information you need to win your fantasy football league sent directly to your email inbox, directly from Joe Bryant himself. Well, for me and for everyone else here on the stream, we want to thank you guys for watching all the way through. We'll see you next time. Adios.